Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Texas officials have directed troopers late last week to begin a surge to secure the Texas-Mexico border in the wake of a growing number of immigrants flooding into that state. So far, 52,193 children have been apprehended between now and last October, which is an average of 231 kids a day coming across that border. So can a buildup of law enforcement on the border stop the surge in illegal immigration? Joining us now from Austin, Texas, to discuss all this is Fred Burton. He's the Vice President of Intelligence for Stratfor, which is a global intelligence firm. And Fred is a former U.S. State Department counterterrorism agent. So thank you so much for joining us, Fred. And let me start with the first question. Who are these kids? Why are they coming to the United States? And is somehow this linked to cartels?
KT, the Rio Grande Valley of Texas is the center of gravity for the movement of other than Mexicans called OTMs, as well as the unaccompanied minor children. And some of the numbers that we're hearing from our police contacts are that they're being apprehended at the rate of 1,100 a day. And those are current numbers as of close of business last Friday.
Well, 1,100 a day. Why are they all coming here? Is this some concerted effort on the part of governments, and as you point out, other than Mexico, governments to send their children here? Is it a word-of-mouth campaign? Why all of a sudden are we seeing over 1,000 children a day streaming across that southern border?
I think it's a combination of factors. I don't think we've seen the ultimate surge yet. I think that that's still coming. We're probably 2-3 weeks away before we see a larger group of illegals heading towards the Rio Grande Valley. And the bulk of these children, as well as the females, although there has been quite a lot of males accompany them, are from Central and Latin America.
When you say they're from Central and Latin America, how are they, first of all, how are they getting all the way to the Mexican border? And why are they coming? I mean, how do they know all of a sudden, let's all head to the Rio Grande? What do you think, Fred?
I think the bulk are learning through word of mouth that if you make your way to the border now, that you are literally going to have a free pass into the United States. In conversations with some of the border law enforcement contacts of ours here at Stratfor, that's what many of the illegals are saying, that they've heard this through word of mouth and they're being transported via coyotes, they're climbing onto rail cars. A lot of them are literally walking and making their way to the border. And it's not unusual from one law enforcement contact I spoke to Friday to see that many of these individuals in numbers such as 50 to 100 are crossing the Rio Grande River into the United States and just waiting for the U.S. Border Patrol to pick them up.
Fred, you know, you're a counterterrorism guy. One of the biggest national security fears has been that porous southern border, and especially on the Texas side of the border, where there is no barrier, no fence, no wall, not a lot of agents protecting the border, that it would be a sort of a safe crossing point for terrorists. In other words, instead of just children who are coming from Central and Latin America, you could see that group that would be sort of salted with terrorists, with suicide bombers, with people who are coming into the United States to conduct terrorist activities throughout the country, and that they would sort of hide with a lot of the illegal immigrants who were coming in, and then they would go off, and instead of trying to find jobs, they would go off and try to blow up shopping malls. How serious a national security threat is this, Fred?
Well, it's really an interesting question, KT. When you look at this in context from a counterterrorism perspective, you literally don't know what you don't know, and I think that that's important for your viewers to understand, meaning we're seeing numbers such as 1,100 picked up or apprehended, but we have absolutely no idea how many others are getting through. And one of the concerns from a counterterrorism perspective is that the influx of these large volumes of migrants is causing resources to be drawn away from the issues that we are talking about now, such as public health concerns as well as counterterrorism concerns, that literally when you have a infrastructure such as the U.S. Border Patrol and the Texas Department of Public Safety stuck with just doing border interdiction, then what else is happening around your flanks?
Mm-hmm. And so what you're suggesting is, because we're so focused on taking care of buying diapers for the illegal immigrants who are coming through on our southern border, that we're not really focusing on other people who might be coming in and any potential weapons, even including weapons of mass destruction, that they might be carrying with them. So what do we do about it? You know, some people have said we build a wall, we build a fence, we militarize the southern border. That's going to stop things. Clearly, we need more resources. But what's the real solution to this? Because if you point out that we're just at the beginning of this surge, that it could get much worse, much bigger numbers in just a few weeks' time, we've got to do something. So what do we do?
Well, I'm afraid that from my perspective, the issue is in many ways unfixable. When you look at the strategy that's being implemented at this time, whereas these individuals are literally allowed entry into the United States, none of them are being returned, and they're being relocated across the United States, the chances of them showing up for immigration hearings is highly remote from everybody that I speak to concerning this effort from the immigration front. So in essence, I think in many ways this is a problem that, from a national security perspective, that there's really not a lot of focus on and working through to try to look at some solutions.
Fred, how many people are we talking about, children or otherwise, who could come across the border in this surge?
Those numbers are truly unknown to the law enforcement sources that I speak to along the border, but I know that they are very concerned that over the next 2 to 3 weeks that surge will uptick greatly and overwhelm the current resources that are on the border, which is another reason the Texas Department of Public Safety deployed their troopers. And it's my understanding that more troopers are on standby in case the border in many ways gets overran. Mm-hmm. So it's a problem that for those of us here in Texas that we are used to dealing with every day, but as you get farther and farther away from the border, KT, this is the kind of issue that less and less people are really focused on.
Yeah, I've been on that southern border, whether it's on Texas or on the Arizona side of the southern border, and it is an overwhelming problem in those communities on the American side of the border. Well, thanks for joining us, Fred Burton, who is Vice President of Stratfor, the global strategic analysis firm, and we're thrilled to have you join us from Austin, Texas. That's it for DEF CON 3.